Hi and welcome to another episode of eCommerce One. And today's guest is Frankie Baeza, who's the founder at the ROAS system with a focus on paid social, and also one of the lead trainers at the Blueprint, Facebook's Blueprint training, part of the She Means Business program. How are you doing, Frankie?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Fantastic. So you're in Bournemouth today. I think that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I love the coast, so I can't get away.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. We're about 45 minutes away, unfortunately, from the coast. So yeah, counting down the days for another little day trip. So I think I'm looking forward to this one big time. So it's a topic that's very close to my heart, very close to our agency. So social ads. So how did you get into social ads in the first place?
Well, I was going to say, would you like the long story or the short story? The summarized one.
I'll leave it with you.
Leave it with me. Okay, cool. I'll try and skip through it as get to the point as quick as I can. I started with uni. I went to Bournemouth Uni, studied marketing, went to uni with a business idea, which was hats, snapback hats for. I used to sell on a market in Woking, and I was selling American football snapbacks. I had some regulars, which were grannies, asking me for UK football clubs, and at that moment I was like, oh wow, this is definitely a gap in the market. So I went to Bournemouth Uni with that idea, and moved quite fast. So with my housemate, that happened to be a graphic designer, we just pumped pretty much all my student loan into making 3 hats. Used Alibaba. The hats arrived by October, and we were ready to go live by Christmas. And that was my first experience of using social media to like amplify brand, get in touch with celebrities. I kind of feel like I came to it a bit too early, if it's possible. Because didn't have any idea about paid social just yet, but that was my first sort of experience on the social media element and the influence element. So fast forwards, that came to an end in 2015. So we had an issue with some Premier League lawyers and some patent issues, and we were very young and naive, and it's just one of those things that came to an end. And then in the summer, that was my first experience at an ad agency. I went to work for Brooklyn Brothers in Soho. I was one of the planning interns. I was, put into creative workshops. I was asked to get some audience insights, and that's when I started, playing with the Facebook audience platform, starting to understand how it works, but still very, very early stages. I then also.
Where was this then, roughly? Where are we talking?
This is in 2013.
13, yeah. Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, this is a while ago. But then through that summer, I spent a bit more time with, I hopped around quite a few internships. I had a great experience with a guy called Andy Batman. He was like a consultant and is now like one of the leads at Monster Energy. But his strategy formulation and the way he came up with things really helped me, because I was very keen to start my own thing. And I actually went back to uni again with another idea. Was a drink, a relaxation drink, which again, it's all naivety, right?
It's part of the process, isn't it?
It's part of the process, yeah. But scaling a drinks company is something that requires a lot of funding and a lot of thought process, distribution, bottling, packaging. It just didn't come across my mind, but he was very helpful in sort of making me realize that it's probably not the best thing to pursue just yet. So I stuck at it, went back to uni, finished uni, and then in 2014 I had my first job at a startup, which was my introduction to the tech world. It's called Droplet, and it was a financial services company. It was essentially a mobile wallet. They were, again, too early to the game. They this was pre-Apple Pay, 2014, and also pre-Monzo, and yeah, so it was a really interesting experience there. I was made unofficially a growth hacker, which was quite hard to explain to my mum. She's like, "You're getting paid to hack?" I was like, "No, mom, no, it's a real job title in San Francisco. I promise you." Like, I had to explain that to her, and that gave me a real excitement about, you know, user acquisition and you know, where I kind of wanted to pursue my career, especially in tech.
Yeah.
I actually got made redundant along with all my colleagues quite like a year into the job, basically, which was also like another eye opener, as the tech is very like, things can go wrong very easily if funding doesn't continue. But luckily I managed to pursue another job in tech, which was with a company called Icon Zone, and they were doing a marketplace for footballers to commercialize their social followings.
Yeah.
So like footballers now, I mean, I'm sure you're aware of this, but footballers now have more followers than the clubs themselves.
Yeah.
And what these people wanted to do is commercialize the names of the footballers into licensed products.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of analysis on teams,
Yeah.
and the most influential players in the teams, and trying to sort of capture the right players and the right clubs to get those deals. And that was, again, was a great experience in the social space, but not yet paid social.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if I fast forward that to 2015, I started have you heard of Product Hunt?
Yes, where you, I have, it's it's like a group buy type thing. Yeah.
So Product Hunt is it's kind of like an aggregator or you know, like a forum for tech products, and it's updated every day.
Also,
yeah, software, apps, it could be hardware, anything techie, primarily techie stuff.
Yeah.
And it was started by a guy called Ryan Hoover, and I loved the product. I used to use it every day, and I decided to use that model and try to do it in fashion. So because I still love the clothing industry, I didn't think I'd go back into it, but I wanted to sort of amplify the small clothing industries in the UK.
Yeah.
Again, it was one of those things that the commercialization of it was too difficult. I didn't have any funding. I was self-funded, but that very luckily gave me the opportunity to interact with someone called Daniel Murray. So I tweeted him about what I was doing and about what he was doing, which was, he was the founder of a company called Grabble.
Yeah.
And Grabble would do fashion, but like in a Tinder style. So they would suggest clothing to you, and you could say yes or no, and you could swipe left and right. And when you would swipe yes, if it went on discount, you get notified. And it was a clever app. Very beautifully designed.
Yeah.
And I actually got brought in there to run the paid social ads. So that's when my career in paid social started, and that was in 2016.
Yeah.
I had a short stint there. It was very much a steep learning curve. So I just got thrown in the deep end. I was like, here's £1,000 a day. Start getting these downloads in and reduce the price of the acquisition cost.
Yeah.
And it was very much a learn. I was very lucky because the guy teaching me was his name's Jack, and he was very experienced in the dating sector, which is obviously a massive spender on social ads. And he was able to teach me all his techniques, the structure of campaigns, how to monitor performance, but very much, I feel very lucky that I was, please excuse me, guys. I was very lucky that I got put into the deep end straight away, because it forced me to learn the product very fast. and I was, you know, I got comfortable with Power Editor pretty quickly,
Yeah.
which made it really easier to do mass edits and stuff like that. And yeah, it was good. I mean, we generated over 120,000 app downloads in like four months. So that was a really good stint for me. It wasn't feasible to stay on for reasons that became clear like a year after. They closed down after a year and a half, but they actually forwarded me on to work for Born Social. They introduced me to Born Social, which was a one of the UK's, I wouldn't say it's the first, but probably one of the first agencies to primarily focus on social, especially in London. And they brought me in as their first advertising manager. So they didn't have any paid specialists at the time, which was an eye opener. It was an eye opener. I was like, oh my goodness, there's a lot to do here. And that, I think, was the real learning curve for me in terms of, you know, I was brand side with Grabble, and now I'm going to the agency side, and I'm seeing like how many industries, how many different types of businesses, different types of objectives that they all have, different audiences that they all have.
With your agency side or in that environment, you're not siloed into one set of campaigns, one industry, one maybe objective type, etc. You get in and you get to see the whole world out there and what's possible, and then obviously from that, you are where you are today. So
yeah, it was a great experience. It was you know, the variety of clients is what probably made me realize that the power of the Facebook product, you know, from D2C, from services, financial services. It was so broad. It was amazing to see that. And yeah, it was a really fun experience there. It was a nice small team. I think they've grown now quite significantly, and got, you know, only gone to get bigger and bigger accounts. But yeah, it was a great experience. Brilliant. That was my first experience.
Brilliant. So, and here we are today then, and obviously working on a lot of different projects, a lot of different, obviously over the years, a lot of different types of accounts. Talk about B2B, B2C, and, you know, different elements of whether it's e-com, lead gen, etc. But what are sort of the main objectives you're focused on when you're working on social?
Richard, sorry mate, I've lost you here.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, man. Sorry.
Apologies about that. Not sure. Okay, I'll just re-ask that question and then we'll edit that out. Okay. So obviously a lot of different types of client you've been working with and different companies you've worked for, etc. Obviously working directly for Facebook, etc. And you've got a lot of experience in all different account types. So what would you say are the main objectives that you focus on when you're working on social ads?
So yeah, it has. I would say I've worked across pretty much all objectives. My now primary focuses are lead gen, app acquisition, so app downloads and conversions. They tend to be more high level, performance based, and, you know, drive the real business results. But there is still, I believe, a lot of value in the brand side objectives such as reach, video views, because they do deliver fantastic value for money in terms of CPMs, and obviously you can build a very engaged audience via video, which is a really interesting way to, you know, if you don't have an audience, let's build one, and that's the quickest way to do it. So, you know, if TV could say, you know, if TV ads, if it was possible to you know, understand the attention on an ad, and then if someone like was fully focused on an ad, you could, you know, send them an email straight away. That'd be pretty powerful, right?
So we're saying, for the guys that are listening, we're saying that using video ads to promote the brand using CPM, is that what we're saying? So
no, reach would be optimizing on CPM. Video views would be optimizing on a cost per play or through play. But those sort of metrics are on the brand side.
Yeah.
Those are the ones you'd be optimizing for on that end.
Yeah.
And yeah, what I'm saying essentially is the costs of that are very effective, used on a whole top to bottom strategy. So,
use that top end to then filter them down to then more direct style campaigns where we can target ROAS potentially.
Exactly.
Versions. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got a lot of different people on the podcast listening in, that are ranging from sort of, I think, we talk a lot about AdWords, and we've got a lot of people on the AdWords side of things, but I think social ads definitely less so. And I think more, I think people are definitely more sort of open to Facebook ads than they were, every 6 months ago, 12 months ago, and so on. But for those guys that are sort of wanting to start out on Facebook ads and social ads, where would you say is a good starting point, on what sort of advice would you give to those people?
I would say the starting point, and this seems obvious, but start on the presentation of your social organically.
Yeah.
Start on your page, making sure you fill out all the sections that you can, the functionalities that you can. Use the organic features. There is a lot of them. You can have an about section. You can have your cover photo, which can be a video as well. You can set up. There's loads of different types of formats of posts that you can post, from events to polls to galleries of photos. So I'd say get comfortable with that first, because obviously it's one thing having a personal Facebook profile.
Yeah.
It's another thing having a business profile.
Yeah.
And what I find is there are a lot of businesses out there that will invest no time at all into their organic and then go straight into ads and expect results when, that does have an effect on your overall performance.
I think the guys that are listening, you just got to think, haven't you, that you're about to press the button and go live on ads. And then the reality is, you're not familiar with the platform, but then those people that are then going to maybe go to your page, which is inevitable if someone's going to take a commercial decision or even just take somebody seriously, and you've not posted for 3 weeks, or your photos and the way it's built out, and that it's quite amusing. Where I think I saw an ad. The other week, or I think I saw an ad promoting sort of a dodgy ad, if you like, that said, there's a guy saying that he'll teach you how to get 1 million followers on Facebook, and his ad had been live for like 2 months, and it had like 3 likes. Yeah, okay. It's not going to work out too well, I don't think. Yeah. So making sure that your profiles are kept up to date, and making sure that they are, professional, consistent, which is, quite often, we get that same sort of challenge where people come to us and say, right, we start ads. It's like, well, we can start ads, but, the conversions are not, the data is not necessarily going to be very good until we do this piece of work organically. So would you typically help them with the organic, or would you sort of more educate them, get the clients?
Yeah, I wouldn't, I'll be honest, I wouldn't touch the organic, but I would educate them to say, look, I'm not going to be able to work with you until you have this set up, and, until you understand the functionality on the page end, it's not even worth talking about the ads yet, because there is a lot, it's not really, it's a great thing for enablement and engagement, right? If someone actually actively follows your page, that's essentially them subscribing to your content. I want to engage with the company, or this company interests me, or this organization interests me. So, it can be a tough one, because obviously you can't directly prove return on ad spend or return on investment through social organic. Like, it's very difficult to do that. But essentially it is such a vital part of the performance of the overall ads, and also just how, like you said, the perspective. If I click on a page and the last post was 2018, but the ads are like, fully, like, there's loads of variants of the ads and stuff, you realize that the company is only focused on one thing, which is revenue and generate profit, which is fine. It's completely fine, but it's very obvious when you do that.
Yeah, you're just less likely to purchase, aren't you, as a consumer, if if you do go and look at the page, it's like, okay, yeah, a lot of people still will, but your ROAS isn't going to be as good as you want it to be, I don't think. Okay, so you've worked on a lot of different campaigns. What sort of tips would you give the listeners specifically, like specific tips right now that are working well for you or have worked well for you and still continue to work well for you? What sort of tips would you give to the listeners?
So I would say really dive down into your business objectives.
Yeah.
Really like focus and understand what they are and try to align that with the ad objectives that you have available to you on Facebook. A lot of companies, you have to remember what you're optimizing for as well. So something, and also think about the whole experience. Don't just think my website's done, I'm going to send traffic to the website and it should all work fine. The checkout experience needs to be, fantastic. Page speed is important. All these things that I'm sure are very valid and important in SEO and are also important for Facebook. When you actually have an objective, which is to send traffic out of Facebook doesn't necessarily want people to leave Facebook. So if there's any issues with page speed, if there's any kind of, horrible pop-ups that come up on the page, that will be penalized. So it's worth thinking about the whole experience, the flow of the journey, and consider that highly when you're making your campaigns.
Yeah.
Another thing I'd say is really experiment with formats.
Yeah.
A lot of people tend to, try to use a horizontal image, which I wouldn't touch anymore. The only types of creative I use are 1x1 squares and 9x16 vertical or 4x5 vertical. They're the ratios that you need to focus on, which are obviously a bit unusual because they don't actually appear on I don't think they appear on many other ad platforms.
Yeah.
So it can throw off companies. How do you make a square image? Well, there are loads of tools out there, which obviously we'll talk about. But that's what I'd recommend. And also motion. Motion is very important. Yeah. It can be just a bit of like, it has to, the creative is so important. So, you're up against loads of different types of creative. Yeah. So the way to stand out is obviously movement. It is so simple, and it doesn't have to be like a 1 minute Guinness ad or 3 minute Guinness ad. It just needs to tell someone something within half a second. You don't have a lot of time.
That split, like I say, second, just to interrupt that scroll. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll
exactly that.
Further on, yeah. So making sure that experience when you go to the site, that's the first thing. Making sure that that goes across any sort of marketing channels. Whether you're doing Google ads, whether you're trying to focus on SEO and conversion. At the end of the day, if you haven't got a good experience on the site, it doesn't matter what you do. That's quite often the first port of call for any type of marketing strategy I would recommend as well. So many people are so geared up on, we need to double the traffic. Obviously conversions and sales, but ultimately, it's quite often not about doubling the traffic in a lot of SEO cases, for example. It's about doing that CRO piece at the front end, making sure that the site actually converts. That experience of different mobile devices, the checkout. I know we've mentioned this in a lot of podcasts over the last 6 months, but just listen. If you're listening in, go and buy something from your site, from your mobile phone, and see if it's acceptable. Because I would imagine 50% of you listening in, there's a problem. And so just if you've got chat programs, quite often, I see it all the time. The chat program is still showing, and sort of in the checkout, and there might be some instances you want it to. But sometimes you can't actually get to the checkout button. You can't click.
It blocks. It's overlaying the
overlays, and then you're trying to click the cross to get rid of the chat, and then you can't, and then but you know what, bugger it, I'll buy it somewhere else, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's not going to happen, but we see it literally every other week. We see that a very specific thing. getting lost in the checkout, not being able to go back, or so that checkout.
I've had that a lot with outbound checkouts. So when you go to have a website, you're happy with the website, happy with the product, click add to cart, everything's looking great. You click purchase, and then suddenly it's taking you somewhere else. You're like, where am I going? I don't want to go somewhere else. I want to buy it here.
You've not properly set up their Sage Pay or whatever it may be. They're going off to the third-party checkout, and then you're like, whoa, I'm not putting my credit card in there. Basically, you need to spend half a day with your dev and get that fixed. It's that simple. Yeah. So if obviously we've got a lot of guys that probably will be running ads as well that are listening. So they're looking at their ad campaigns, they're looking at the different campaigns they're running. Now, if you're looking at an ad campaign that isn't performing, what sort of things do you look at specifically? Maybe more so on the e-commerce side specifically.
Okay.
What sort of things would you look at that can help improve the returns and ROAS?
So first of all, be looking at delivery of the ads. Is there any issues? Is the ad set in learning mode? And if it is, there's definitely a problem and that needs to be fixed. Look at impressions. For me, the reason why I say this is if it hasn't hit 8,000 impressions or more, it's not really worth making a decision just yet, unless obviously you've had it on for a week and it just isn't spending your budget. But in that case, that's sort of my decision point. 8,000 plus, is this actually a winner or a loser? Be critical about the actual creative. Think about where you are and who you're selling to and the language you're using. With e-com, it can be very product focused, very price focused, very offer focused, but it doesn't necessarily need to be so direct responsive at the start. It can be very brand. It can be like a brand ad. Sorry. So there is some seriously advanced tools in terms of e-com on Facebook. So you have the catalogs, which I'm sure you're aware of. And if they're implemented right, they can be implemented across industries. So e-com, automobiles, property, and flights. Obviously, flights taking a hit, but in terms of those industries, they're very much product focused, loads of SKUs, and the interesting part of that is the dynamic deliverability. So if I'm looking at 3-bed houses, or if I'm looking at a particular shoe size, I can set up the audiences in a way that will only deliver those products that are available to that person. So if a product goes out of stock, it just automatically takes it out of the ad. If it's back in stock, it will go back into the ad. And it's also those ads tend to be like dynamic carousels, but there are other ways of using the catalog products. You can add them to instant experiences, and you can add them to canvases. So there isn't just one format of ad on ecom. So I specifically say try and experiment with the other formats before cutting the ad spend or even cutting the campaign. Another thing is if you're using video, try and focus on shortening the length of the video. 15 seconds is optimal. And you can do up to 3 videos 15 seconds long in a story, back to back. So you can do a 15-second intro, 15-second products, 15-second availability, so try and adapt your creative to the platform, and use that. Another thing I'd say is dynamic creative optimization, which is probably not used by everyone. It may seem like you're losing control a bit, or you're giving Facebook more power. But in my opinion, it's a fantastic way to use Facebook's platform to its full potential, in terms of liquidity, in terms of placement optimization, It's a really, really clever way to be everywhere at the same time.
Yeah.
So what that would do is essentially you'd use a 9x16. Oh, where am I in the camera? So 9x16, and then obviously this would be your main focus area, the 1x1. You could have like some stuff at the top, some stuff at the bottom, but that would be your main creative. But then it will be reformatted per placement, and the ad will be delivered across all placements, which more recently has expanded quite significantly. So, you know, I'm now seeing placements available in Facebook search. I'm now seeing placements available in the marketplace.
Yeah.
There's now placements available in groups. There's placements in Instagram Explore. So there's some serious like expansion in where these ads are appearing. And obviously to be in those places, you need to have the right format.
So I think, guys, listening to that last 2 minutes there, you know, I would stop the podcast right now and just rewind, because there's some real nuggets in there, you know, the newer placements. And I think this is where I personally think, and I hopefully you agree, you know, that Facebook is really developing that you know, that ability for products, the DPA, as we refer to it, dynamic product ads, to be able to use those catalogs to create catalogs of products, subsets of products, different types, whether it's all your products. And then when somebody's gone to your store and looked at that size 7 t-shirt, whatever it may be, size 7 Nike pair of shoes, you know, and then they didn't buy it, you know, that catalog and the way you've set up your ads is enabling you to then show that size 7 Nike to the person that put it in the basket, person that looked at it and obviously bid differently based on that level of intent, all the different placements. You know, I think, you know, I see a lot more of the placements. You know, obviously we manage a lot of accounts for those, but I'm seeing more and more, especially in that marketplace and groups. You know, so if you think about some of the targeting you can do there, you know, when there's these passionate groups around the products that you sell, and you can place ads, you know, on the marketplace.
Yeah.
Groups, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Marketplace, I think, is a very interesting product in its own right. You know, I've seen the listings there now expanding into these exact things we discussed on DPA and catalogs, which are houses, cars, you know, big purchases. Obviously, there are competitors out there, Zoopla, AutoTrader. They must be quaking, because it is a serious product in terms of the information availability, the ease of searching, the
very powerful. A lot of variables you can use, isn't there? So, well, literally just before lockdown, so 7 months ago now nearly, we were about to start a project with a villa company, and you know, exactly the same from your holidays at the end of the day, booking a 5-person, an 8-person, a 10-person in a country, you know, all the different variables that you have with an e-commerce SKU, you know, a physical product you have with holidays, you have with cars. So that, you know, Facebook's offering there is very much like, you know, it's so unique that, you know, so the ability then to show, you know, that family of 4, their holiday that they looked at 3 weeks ago, and similar holidays and reviews for that same property they looked at, and the availability and the pricing and you know, the fact that there's only 2 left, you know, in August for the, you know, the family holiday. It's like, whoa, it's some good stuff. Yeah.
And it's mad to think there was a time where that was all done manually.
Yeah.
You know, this was all done manually by, you know, lists being updated every day, audiences, exclusion lists. Oh God, and it gets messy. You know, it gets really messy, really time consuming and quite boring. And you know, this is why the product involvement has been so interesting to see, because in such a short space of time, it's now almost completely automated. You know. So yeah, very, very interested in sort of those new placements and making sure that, you know, you're using the right formats for those placements.
Lots to look at there. So obviously you've worked on a lot of ad campaigns over the years and continue to do so. What's some of the best ad campaigns you've worked on, and why have they been so good?
Yeah, I think in terms of the impact it's had on my career, and also just for the client and for the agency, I'd start with Born Social. There's three that come to mind. I'll start with Born Social and say it was Backyard Cinema. So in 2016, they came along in October to talk about their Christmas show. And this is the first time I was given a significant budget at Born Social, and also some time to think about how to do this, rather than let's boost some posts and which was the standard thing at the time. So this was the first like real, let's think about this strategy. And we came up with a really interesting. This is why I say using the brand side objectives and the direct response side objectives are so powerful, because we started off with reach campaigns across London with videos and instant experiences, just to show people what they were, what was available, what were the films available, when it was launching, etc. And that was on the start of the campaign. Even through that, already we were generating revenue, so it was a good sign that this was a product that would be easy to sort of shift. And then we retargeted those video views with web traffic campaigns, which again was driving revenue and driving return on ad spend. But then obviously with that traffic, we can now retarget the traffic, create lookalikes off the back of the traffic, and do conversion ads.
Yeah.
And we actually managed to sell out tickets with less than 70% of the budget.
Yeah.
And we actually made like it's a ridiculous return on ad spend. It's like 825 or something like that.
825 times. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was that actually to me was the first time I used the ROAS measurement.
Yeah.
And that's actually the first time I was like, this is the number. This is the number that everyone's gonna be talking about. And that actually did
music to my ears.
Yeah, and that's what actually made me realize that I wanted to start my own. Well, when I was to start my own, I would be calling it ROAS Systems.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd be focusing on.
Yeah.
That was awarded Best Paid Social Media Campaign by Social Media Communication Awards, and it also won Best Paid Media Campaign by the Drum Dardy Awards.
Yeah.
So it was a really awesome to be part of that. I wasn't actually at the agency when they picked up but it is what it is. Yeah. What happens when you hop around too much? Another campaign that sticks out is I was working for an agency called Ality. And we had a client called Anchor, and they're like care home Anchor Jobs. They're a care home firm, and they were looking to hire across the UK. So what we did is similar style in terms of three-pronged approach of driving the reach at the start, retargeting the reach with conversions over the line. But we were actually using the Facebook Messenger to pre-qualify the candidates, which then made the interviews a lot smoother and a lot more effective. So they had a 23% conversion rate on job applicants and a 68% lower cost per applicant. So yeah, it was a really good project to work on. The actual bot I didn't have anything to do with. It was another guy at the company, an absolute wizard, because it required some serious code and some really clever ways of one of the questions was, where are you based? Please enter your postcode. You put your postcode in, it would run a search alongside your radius, whether or not there was jobs in the area. And then obviously you could be given, straight away the jobs that are available for you to apply for. So really clever products, really clever campaign. And yeah, I think it made some waves in the recruitment industry in terms of.
I like that. Yeah. I think the different APIs and using automations and scripting. So that's the Facebook Developer API, looking in with the recruitment data. Amazing.
And then the last one was last year. Well, it took me a long time. So I started talking to them at the start of 2018, and they weren't interested at the start at all. They're very much on an organic model, which is fair enough because they built a really good community. But this was free trade. So free trade is a challenger stockbroker, and they came into the market via crowdfunding. So they had like a really good user base to start with. And I remember talking to them very start, like, oh, we need to get you on social ads. We need to get you on social ads. And they just weren't having it. They weren't very convinced it would work for them at the start. I think I sent proposals over the course of a year. And then, and luckily, like, no one else must have been pursuing them because they came back to me. And we worked on a project for 3 months. And the good thing here was, my end goal was to prove the channel as a acquisition channel, which we did. We did in 3 months. We generated 10,000 downloads or so, registered downloads. So because we were tracking each part of the journey, and now they have like a team on this. So they've in-housed it, and they're up against. I think they're about to hit 250,000 downloads now.
Wow.
So they're in a serious growth stage, and it was fantastic to be part of that. It opened a lot of doors for myself.
Brilliant. So I think a lot of people with Facebook, it's this creative piece that people get stuck on. I think it's, you get into the interface, you sort of figure out how to maneuver it as a start point. Podcasts that are doing their own thing. It's quite daunting, a bit like AdWords in a way, probably less daunting than AdWords, I think. But then it comes down. I think when it comes down to it, you've got this creative element. What sort of things, tools, sort of tips you can give the guys? Maybe tools, definitely.
Yeah.
Creative side of Facebook.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I think if you're really early stages on this and you're just starting off, and for example, you want to get started on story ads, I would say use Instagram itself. So use the Instagram camera. Get on the camera, play with the effects, play with the stickers, play with the polls, GIFs. Just get used to it, and actually that content can be used in ads because you can download what you've made, and then you can send it to an email or a Google Drive, and then you can use that as an ad itself. That's obviously wouldn't be the most scalable way to produce content, because obviously it's
good start point.
It's definitely definitely a good starting point. But if you then want to expand your the creative, make it look less organic, because using camera will just look like organic content, which is one of the benefits of it. It looks native. It looks like it's not an ad. But then obviously if you want to do an obvious ad, which sometimes you need to do, there are other products out there. I think I would start with Spark. So Adobe Spark is their new web-based client. There's no software. I mean, you can get the app on your phone.
Yeah.
It's essentially a progressive web app. So you can get it on your phone, you can get it on the web. And it's really a clever tool because it has loads of templates. It has, you can upload your brand guidelines on there as well. So if you have any colors, if you have any fonts, if you have logos, you can upload all that into separate brands. And then whenever you make a product or an ad, you can just drop them in the right place. You don't have to worry about what's the hex code or what's the font.
Collaborating with teams and agencies as well.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my favorite. Then obviously there's Canva, which is a fantastic product. Obviously some people love hate because of designers are probably hating it.
I think I've had 2 designers on the podcast. I don't mention it. But we use it.
I don't have any sympathy because it's just how it is. Products evolve and you need. I think if for example I've had designers I've worked with, and they're saying I don't know how to animate. I'm like, I know how to animate, so you need to know how to animate. Like, I'm not a designer, so you know, there's an element of maybe not liking the fact that it's not a purist approach, but it's a great product, and if you're a good designer, you can make some great ads on there. So you know, I would say from the bottom of my heart, if you are a designer and you know, you don't have experience in motion, get on Canva. You know, that's a great start. And then obviously Adobe Illustrators for, you know, some really good graphics if you're into like more nitty gritty, and you know, if you want to plan, for example, a large campaign with maybe 5 different personas, and you know, you want to have a story ad and then some carousel ads and then an instant experience for each persona, you know, you can make the artboards and, you know, map it out a lot visual, which takes longer, but it can be worth it if you're doing a big campaign like that. And then finally, there's a product called Creative Hub, which isn't used that much. I don't think. It's relatively new. It's on the Facebook ads platform, and it allows you to see your ad before you get it into Ads Manager across all placements, like every single placement there is. So if I find the designers are probably designing it as a single image and not thinking about the copy above, the copy below, the call to action, the environment it's in,
rather than it's out in the wilderness.
Exactly. And I think that disconnect can cause sometimes a bit of the creative could be better. So I think if you are designing and you want to see what it looks like on the actual ad, get on Creative Hub, and check out how it looks on all placements, and then, you know.
Yeah, I would say that is an area that Facebook are going to develop even more and more as well. That's my thoughts on it. You know, they've got their own tool, you know, and they are talking about it more and more and more. You know, they're going to develop that. Obviously, you're staying in their platform, which is what obviously all the, you know, a lot of it's about. So, you know, they acknowledge the fact that the creative is a challenging piece. Can you still hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, man.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I'd chopped out. Okay. So that's great. So obviously a lot of different ideas there of tools to use. So let's touch on, so obviously you are a lead trainer at the Blueprint. So when we refer to the Blueprint, for those that are listening, it's Facebook's own training, you know, to train on the different elements of paid ads. You know, there's all different areas, you know, whether that's, you know, the technical side, the numbers side, the creative side, the planning side, the strategy side, and there's all the different areas, a lot of different certifications. And Frankie teaches and leads on a lot of that for Facebook. So as a teacher, you must get asked a lot of the same questions, a lot of similar questions. So what are some of the most sort of common things that maybe people ask you, and what are the solutions really?
Yeah, gosh. So I would say, you know, because it's such a large platform, and because there's so many, it can be overwhelming, right? You get on ads platform and there's so many buttons, there's so many places to start. So I think that the main questions that come through is, you know, the creative, like what creative should I use? Why should I use it? Audiences, you know, like how in depth, how granular do I go into my targeting? And then finally budget. And what's interesting is these 3 things are completely unique to your business every time. There is no blanket response to any of those questions. The creative can be, you know, if you're selling a hot product that everyone wants, there's no need to do brand ads, so you can focus on direct response. If no one's heard of you and you do direct response straight away, you're not going to get any results. So it's very difficult to give, like, this is why it's really interesting to talk to people one-to-one or in group sessions, or and actually understand their business. But that's actually one of the reasons why I found agency life so tough, because you actually have to understand the person's business. And when you're working across, I don't know, 40, 50, even more like accounts, how can I, a third party, understand your business better than you do? I don't think it's possible. You know, as much as I can try, I don't think that's truly possible. So
there's definitely a challenge there on the agency side. I think, if you've got 40 clients, then forget it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But essentially, it's really coming to terms with your business objectives and understanding how to use a Facebook ads platform to achieve those goals. Because I've had clients where I've gone in and they're straight away starting on conversion ads, and their pixel isn't even live, and I'm like, how did you do that? How is that even possible? You know, so people, unfortunately, it's not very clear as to like where to start. And I think that's, I would say personally, like we discussed, is start on your page. You know, start on understanding that, and then maybe start some engagement posts on your first. If you really want to understand the product, the engagement ad, although it doesn't have direct sales correlated or anything like that, it's very cheap.
Yeah.
So it allows you to test your creative quicker than any other objective. So if you have 10 different posts, different types of messaging, different types of language, some with emojis, some without, and you're, you know, so especially when you're a startup and you don't know how your messaging is necessarily going to look like.
You're doing that research, doing that market research with an engagement post cheaply with real people. Yeah,
and that's what I tend to say is, look, if you haven't got any experience with this, start walking. You know, start on the cheaper stuff. Try to understand what performance means in that objective, and then obviously you can transfer that further down the funnel. But that's the main thing really, is those three factors that very difficult to answer on a blanket basis.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, well, I think fantastic episode. Lots of great takeaways. It's one I'm going to listen back to for sure. We always like to ask a book recommendation of all our podcasts.
Oh, cool. Yeah, this is great.
The book that you would recommend?
Yeah, it's a book called Total Rethink, Why Entrepreneurs Should Act Like Revolutionaries. And it's by a guy called David McCourt. He's Irish American, and he is in charge of the broadband rollout in Ireland at the moment, which is a massive expansion across rural Ireland. But his story is truly inspiring. You know, he's achieved a lot, a very fast pace, and his approach to people, his approach to candidness, his approach to even immigration. His views on immigration are very inspiring to me. You know, for my own sort of story, in terms of my mum and my dad, they're not native to this country, and it touched some nerves there. It was a really great book.
Really resonated. Yeah, fantastic. Well, we'll make sure that's marked up in the show notes. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. If the guys that are listening in want to find out more about you, Frankie, what's the best place to reach out to you?
Yeah, of course. I'm on social, Frankie Baefa. I have a website called thisisanadvert.com, which you can check out. And also, if you are actually active on paid social, head over to paidsocialists.com. It's double L, and that will take you to a group on Facebook with about 500 other paid social specialists. So it's a big community where it's growing organically, and there's a lot of chat there. If you have any questions, technical questions, jobs, things like that, it's always, we will welcome anyone to the group. So,
well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, Frankie.